My next guest is a UFC and Bellator veteran who is the owner of Clementi Gladiator Academy. Rich Clementi joins me here on the program. Rich, how are you?
Doing great, man. A little busy this morning, but that's just how it rolls.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about that because you haven't fought obviously since 2013. It's funny, right now the UFC, they're doing this "Where Are They Now" for guys on the Ultimate Fighter and things like that. So I'm doing my version here, speaking to you. Obviously, you were on season 4 there, but that's sort of where I want to start. I am not a old school UFC fan. I did not watch the UFC from the very beginning. It was the Ultimate Fighter that got me into the UFC, and that's actually where I first became familiar with you on the comeback season, which still to this day is my favorite Ultimate Fighter season. I wanted to know sort of how did you get on that season? Was that something that you wanted to be on, or did the UFC approach you? How did that sort of all come together?
Yeah, no, Monty Cox was a longtime manager of mine, a longtime friend, and it was an opportunity that they had asked about me, and he thought it was a good thing. The contract was really good. Our contract was pretty different than most of the Ultimate Fighters. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that, but it seemed like a good opportunity. So I jumped on it. It was kind of a rough time for me because my wife was on bed rest, and I had a big show, the biggest show that I ever promoted. It was the first MMA show in Baton Rouge at that same time period. So there was a lot of wheels turning, but at the same token, like, you got to just seize the day. So.
Absolutely. And what was the experience like for you? You mentioned there's some of the challenges. Do you kind of wish that you didn't have any of those distractions and you could have just focused primarily on the show?
No, I'm pretty good at multitasking. That's what's kind of made me successful after fighting was over, and even during fighting. I don't think it affected me a lot. The show was a great experience. I got to meet some really great guys, and it's great to see them and how they're living their lives. But the biggest problem that I really had with the show is that and that's really, I think, that with any reality-based show, is that they really portray the image that they want you to see. So what I mean by that is, like, you could say a nice thing about a guy 10 times in a row, but the one time he pisses you off, maybe one day, and you say that one bad thing, that's how they could kind of steer and lead the audience into believing that that's how your relationship is. So, reality TV is really not that much reality. It's whatever the producer wants to portray, that he could kind of cut and copy and paste, certain videos together to really make you either look or seem the way that they want you to be seen at.
Interesting. So if I'm hearing you correctly, if you had the opportunity to do the show again, you probably wouldn't do it just because the editing. I mean, and I agree with you. I think it's a lot of people think reality, but it's not. It's like you said, they sort of pick and choose what they want to show.
Yeah, and that goes with a lot that the UFC does too. I remember, and I hope he doesn't mind me calling this out like this, but I remember specifically, I was there cornering one of Alan Belcher's fights, and they kept just asking him probably like 20 different ways the same question, like, well, what are you gonna do? He's like, gives his answer, and of course they want to hear, I'm gonna give this brutal ass knockout, rip
Yeah.
his head off, blah blah blah, knock him out because that's what I do. But he basically, I remember him like getting up and kicking the chair. He's like, why don't you finish the interview for me? Because you obviously don't want to hear my perception and perspective. You just want to hear what's best for, the crowd and stuff like that. So, but no, to correct your answer before that, statement before that, I would definitely do it again.
Okay, gotcha.
I would definitely do it again. I think that any kid that is young or gets to seize the day on that opportunity, go ahead and do it. Roll the dice. I'm always about rolling the dice. You give me an opportunity, I will always say yes.
Absolutely. You mentioned members of the cast there. Do you still keep in touch with anyone from the show?
A few of the guys, more from afar, to be honest. I enjoy seeing people's lives. I'm pretty. I don't do a million social medias just because I don't have the time for that. But I do enjoy putting my views on Facebook and stuff. And I've connected with a few of the guys from Facebook, so we still keep in touch that way.
Interesting. Do you still watch the show at all?
Sometimes I tune in. My little guys will watch it with me and stuff. So, but not religiously. I am excited about some of the fights tonight. So that's gonna be great. But not religiously. I just don't have time for it, to be honest.
Let's talk about your career here. Pretty impressive, 69 fights. I think, to be honest, you kind of don't get talked about enough with some of your big wins here. Anthony Johnson, Ross Pearson, Melvin Guillard, Sam Stout. Do you kind of feel like people, when they're talking about some of the great fighters, that your name doesn't get brought up? Because those are some pretty good wins there.
Yeah, it was tough because I really was more of a pioneer from Louisiana. There was not really a scene, and I wasn't one of these guys that felt that I was going to pick up shop and move to American Top Team. Or to be honest, at the time, early in my career, it was Pat
That's
Militich's,
right,
and
the Militich camp. Yeah.
oh, what a crew that was,
Yeah, they
So
used to bring that. If you, it's funny if you watch old UFCs, they always bring up the Militich camp during every fight that any fighter's ever involved in,
you
and how
had to.
great it. That was the camp. Like now, it's like Jackson's and American Top Team, like you mentioned there. But now, back in the day, it was always Militich for those old school fans who might be watching.
And that's one thing just kind of, since we're talking about that, that is one thing that you don't see as much anymore. I mean, a few of the top team guys are like that, but that was such a hard group. And I used to go up there to help Jens prepare for some of his fights, and I used to prepare for some of mine up there. And Pat was just he's such a great guy, and always open about the gym and stuff. But it was really, at that time period, it was really a brotherhood. You didn't have this guy that was training over here this week and then change camps the next week, and then you see him training at this one because he lost. No, you lost because you lost the fight, not because of what your trainer did or you didn't run X amount or whatever. You got these guys hopping all over the place now, but it was a really special thing they had up there, and it was neat to be a part of that time period.
And should also mention you got wins here over Tiger Sarnowski and Derek Campos as well. Just to add a few more to that resume there. Is there sort of a fight that you look back on and think that was the most kind of memorable fight of your career?
Um, it's one that probably a lot of people wouldn't know about, but for me personally, I mean, the Melvin Guillard fight. I mean, it just doesn't get much better than that, to be honest. The way that played out, just for me on a personal level, I remember Suge Knight standing next to me and Melvin, and I kind of had this. He's like apologizing for sucker punching me, and Suge Knight standing in line right there, and I just basically said, I said, Melvin, that's kind of the difference between me and you. I said, I'm a business person. I'm not going to act out. I'm not going to be a thug gangster whenever I'm in public. I said, but I do want you to know that every single time I talk to Joe Silva, I beg him to let me embarrass you on TV. That's all my objective is on every fight that I take. And Suge Knight just kind of snookered. He was like, yeah. So it's kind of funny, but really, one of my favorite fights is a guy, Katani, in Japan in Zest, and I was the first American ever to fight in a tag team match with Jeff Curran. It was
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
me and Jeff Curran versus the Katani brothers, and Jeff broke his arm instantly, like right away, and had to. He basically kind of tapped out because of it. So I fought two guys for like a total of like 13 minutes, and I lost that fight. But afterwards, they were using kind of my reputation to promote him, like, oh, well, he beat. I'm like, motherfucker. I'm like, you and your brother beat me at the same time.
Yeah.
So we got to face each other. Zest did a really amazing 16-man tournament at the time. I was runner-up. Marcus Aurelio won it. But I got to face Katani in the second round, and I mean, I just annihilated him. So for me personally, and then after the win, it was really cool because Japan, they're really about the warrior spirit and respect, and that was their guy. They were thinking he was going to win the whole tournament at the time. And they came back in my locker room and they wanted me to switch corners because red is kind of the color of the warrior, and all the Japanese fighters have the red corner and the red gloves and stuff. So they asked me to change gloves to switch because I beat their number one guy. So like from a warrior standpoint, like that was a really cool experience.
Yeah, and do you wish there was more tournaments like that these days? And especially, the Japanese scene has died down a lot. With Pride going away. I know there's Ryzen; they're doing some pretty neat stuff. But is that something you'd like to see more of in MMA?
I love tournaments. How can you not? Because it pulls out the gritty dudes. And to me, that's what fighting is. I could watch a fight, and you have everybody that's a fan of different things with fighting, and some guys really like the guys who are super technical and do this and that. But I mean, my favorite guys to watch are the gritty guys. The Robbie Lawlers that take the punch and just kind of smile about it, and like, oh, now I'm here, like, let's bring it. That's the type of guy I was. That's the type of guys I enjoy because I think that's who they are in their personality. To me, that's what a fighter is.
You brought up the fight against Melvin Guillard. That was actually going to be one of my questions. It was a UFC 79. I remember you submitted him, and then after the fight, I believe he came up to you and kind of got in your face or whatever. What was sort of the bad blood stemming from that? Because I know Guillard is originally from New Orleans or Louisiana, I should say, and I know there was like a build up there, and then you guys fought. Is there still bad blood there? Like what sort of led up to that, and then what's sort of the status of it now?
Yeah, no, he actually fought for under my promotion for many years prior to making the Ultimate Fighter. So basically, I helped build his career, and we had grappled against each other in some submission tournaments, and of course, I always whooped his ass. And then we fought each other in a Muay Thai tournament as well too, and we were both in the finals, and I knocked him out. So he was really talking a lot of smack, and I'm like, seriously, dude, I'm like, you can lie to the public, but I know how this really goes. But of course, because he had a big mouth and he was flashy and that's good knockout power. He was really hyped up from the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, I was a 3-1 underdog on that fight, which was ridiculous. But all my friends, I'll tell you, dude, when I got home, they were so happy. They're like, man, I won 30,000, I won 60,000,
No way.
90,000. I mean, everybody that was from this area bet the house on me. So it was really cool that so many people that were so close to me they really truly got to celebrate that win with me because they made a gang of money. So, but as far as current status now, I keep up with them just because, I mean, I always keep up with any guys that I've fought. When you fight someone, there's something very special, whether you hate them or not, or however it goes. There's a special connection that can never be severed. They're a part of your life. They're like a snapshot of 15 minutes and all the build up before and after that. So to me, I have a mental connection to all the guys, and no matter who they are, anybody that I fought, I really hope that they are successful. Not necessarily, in the fighting arena, because of that connection, whether I dislike them as a person or not.
Well, Guillard has had a bit of a rough stretch lately, and I know he's bounced around camps and everything like that. Are you surprised kind of the way his career's gone? Because I think some people expected some bigger things after he left the UFC.
No, what people don't understand about fighting, and I think that, and this is just my perspective, of course, but I think that there is always a mountain in fighting that you climb on the way up, and there's always a downside of the mountain. And every single fighter will follow that path. Every single fighter will have this rise up. Well, if they're good anyway, some just stay on the bottom. They never make the
Right, right.
climb.
Yeah.
But for the ones that do start that climb and can reach the top, there's always a progression. There's always a climb up, and that's an exciting time period. Then you have kind of this pivotal moment where you're as good as you will ever be, and then there's a decline. That's how life is. That's how Father Time kicks your ass. He's undefeated. It's just that is the reality of fighting, and you have to respect that. The guys that hang in there for a little bit longer. It's not that they suck. It's just that it's the natural progression of the beast. And it's just it's tough for a lot of guys to give up. It's tough for them to move on. It's tough because that is their identity, you know. It's difficult. What was lucky for me is that, for one, I was blessed with two amazing sons that compete, so I get to live vicariously through them. But also, I've always done other things, and I always say this in every interview. Um, fighting didn't define me. I defined fighting, because it's truly who I was. And it's crazy because I'll see guys that come into my door at the gym, and my gym's a pretty hard place. Luckily, I make a lot of money doing other things. I'm involved in medical distributorships and stuff. So my gym is truly run like a church. I'm not one of these guys that are going to put out videos every other day to try to get new people in the door. And I don't alter my program because I think if I'm a little bit softer here, it'll give me 10 students. No, it is as hard-nosed and as real as I think martial arts should be, and when I look at martial arts, I don't think martial arts was meant to be for everybody. I know this is going to sound bad from every business perspective that you can give, but I think martial arts was meant to be something special. It was meant to be something for a few individuals to achieve, put in the work. And if you didn't do those type of sacrifices, you didn't deserve to be part of that martial art way. Just how I think. And what's cool is I run my gym that way, and it really shows in the few guys that I have that are hard nosed. And I'm so dedicated, and I love my kids program because I mean, when my kids go compete, I mean, they just mop up. It's like almost ridiculous. But again, it's because I don't do a cookie cutter type program. We don't kick the ball around in class. No, we work hard, and I make kids the best that they could be. And it's tough. I compare myself to like a Russian gymnastic coach, I guess, if I had to put it on something. So, but that's it's kind of my view on things.
No, I like it. It's a very refreshing view that you don't often hear in the sport, so I like hearing about it. But you mentioned your gym there. One of the guys I have to mention in this interview because he actually helped set this up is Brendan Allen, a middleweight fighter, who's on the rise right now. How good is he? How close do you think we could see him in a big organization like the UFC?
Yeah, he'll be he will be there if that's what he decides to do, and that's the key thing. And I hope he's watching this, and I've told him that himself. But if that's what he decides to do, and that's if he decides to be all in, that's his nickname. If he decides to be all in, he could totally run the gambit. Kid's got all the tools. And fighting's a learning process. He had an amazing fight, this last fight against Charlie Rader, made him look ridiculous, like the kid's never fought in his life. But it just shows because, and then if he struggled in a fight a few weeks prior to that, and it just shows the difference. There's no difference in technique that Brendan had from 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago to the fight with Charlie just a few weeks later. But the mental preparation and what you walk in that ring with up in here, all the difference in the world. So we were able to identify that. We were able to come over it, address it. It's funny because everybody thinks that those things don't matter until they matter.
Right, right,
So
exactly.
he had to learn the lesson the hard way. I hate for anybody to have to do that, but it's one that he will never forget, and he'll grow off of that. So but yeah, he comes in there mentally strong, and knows he's the guy that can perform the way he can. He'll be right up there, man. He will be. I have him, and I have another guy that's flying under the radar, Zach Fears, that nobody wants to fight around this area. But those two guys both have what it takes.
Awesome. I should mention too, Brendan's fighting for Legacy coming up here in July, I believe. So everyone's got to keep their eye out for that. Just a couple more questions for you, Rich. And again, I appreciate the time. What does sort of your day to day look like these days? You got the scrubs on. I should mention you are a arena manager for Flow Onyx Medical, and then you also run the academy as well. So you must be a pretty busy guy.
Yeah, I just went to see an emergent patient that unfortunately had a stroke. I basically work with a lot of pain management physicians. My distributors with a company called Flowonics. I'm the area manager for it's intrathecal pump therapy and implantable pain pumps. So basically, I'll probably need one in about 5 to 10 more years because my body's so jacked up. But that's actually why I migrated into the medical field and pain management, because I really sympathize with the patients. And there's nothing more rewarding in life than being able to help people out. And my therapy is basically like an end of the line therapy, meaning that patients have tried everything and don't have a lot of answers and feel kind of hopeless and stuff. So the fact that I get to do that, still make really great money, and be able to manage this area and territory and stuff. I really never thought I would find something that would satisfy me as much as fighting, but device sales is very competitive. It's very lucrative. There's huge ups and huge downs with it. So it like is exactly the same as fighting. So I just basically took the same attitude and brought it over here. And what was great is, I was the number one producer with my company on the East Coast. And I'm going against people that have done this type of job for years. So, that's what I mean by the attitude of fighting and what it could bring. You just take the same attitude and bring it to whatever, and you'll be successful, whatever arena you decide to compete in.
You retired in 2012. You haven't fought since 2013. Is it safe to say you're officially retired? Because MMA, it's one of those things where guys they'll say they're retired and then we see them pop up on a Bellator card.
Yeah, I mean, certain days I feel like, man, I would just get in there, but I would have to fight some old fuck like myself,
Right.
because. But I mean, in all honesty, my back's really bad. It's in really bad condition. I really only have a few miles left in it. It would be selfish for me to use that on myself, meaning just my own attitude and what I feel I want to do. So really, I'm just trying to save those for the few guys that I care about, training with them and my kids too. I've run the gambit. I'm satisfied with the person that I am. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure I'll come across a bar fight or two that'll bring that
Right.
back for me.
Yeah.
Like, old guys still got it. But for the most part, I mean, I'm content with everything in my life. That's just how I roll. I don't question things. I don't have regrets. I don't do this. I think everything happens for some sort of reason. It steers us in a direction, and the best thing you can do is just get on that surfboard and ride it out, man. So that's just kind of my attitude, and I live pretty worry free because of that.
I can tell. I can tell. And Rich, let me just say this as a journalist and also a fan. It's so good to see you doing so well. I know fighting can sometimes be a cruel sport after it's over, but I'm glad you're one of the people that has found success, and glad to see you're doing quite well here. And I really appreciate you joining me here on the program. Just remind my audience where they can get a hold of you on social media. I know you're not that active, but feel free to plug whatever you got to plug. And anything else you got coming up, let my audience know.
Just on Facebook, Rich Clementi. Follow me there. I put a lot of great stuff on there, especially towards like kids, my kids program. How I raised my own son. My own son's like he's an All-American at 9 years old. Rakes it in, just does a good job. But I do want to put out one shout out because it was something we just talked about just before we close, and that is. Yeah, so when I was in the UFC and at the height of my career, when I was Ultimate Fighter and fighting after that, I was really frowned upon having separate businesses and running promotions, and the conversations happen. Well, if you dedicate a little bit more time to this, but I will tell you this, okay, and going back to Brendan and stuff like that, me and his dad have like a strict rule is that like before we push him into the big show, he has to get his degree. And some people might disagree with that and frown upon that. But even to myself, there's a reason why I'm successful today. It's because that while I was fighting, I was creating things for myself. So for a lot of the younger guys, um, you know, fighting is a great thing and it can bring you to the total top, but it is a small aspect of life. It really is when you look at the big picture. And my suggestion to the younger guys is, plant those, put make those treasure boxes, bury them somewhere. Whether it's a degree, whether it's a small business, whether it's whatever you want to do, go to school while you're fighting, you can always come back and dig those up. What you don't want to do is end fighting abruptly. I remember he passed away, but Justin Eilers, for instance, was a friend of mine. And I remember one fight he broke both hands and one foot, and he was out almost for like a year because of that. That's zero income. I mean, and for some people, they have injuries that's it. That's all you got. You used up this temple that we have. So my suggestion to the guys is, be diligent and do those. So when this experience is over, you could transition right into other things.